Hey,
Or things
hey.
that sound like bad words.
All right, girls, and welcome to tonight's team call. Mindy is going to lead us tonight. But before I pass it off to her, I just want to remind you that the March team calendar is in the Living Healthy and Fit Facebook page, or Facebook group. Make sure you check that out so you're aware of the dates and the things that are going to be happening this month. Everything that is on that calendar is absolutely open to all of you for you to invite your clients to, for your coach prospects to come to and learn more about the coaching opportunity, the third Thursday of the month. All of those dates are there. So make sure you take note of those so you are aware of what you should be talking about in your posts and what event you're inviting to, whether it's a challenge group or a big handful of us are starting off the wall next Monday. So that's a great one to share and talk about. And then the following week will be our What is Coaching event. And then the last week, we are doing a 5-day free group. But we're excited to change things up a bit, and we're going to really provide a ton of value on meal planning and prepping. So there are going to be live videos, tips and tricks, recipes, all kinds of stuff. We are just going to lay it all out so that we can provide a ton of value for free to our potential customers and the customers that are already in that group. So that's all I have. If you have any questions on what's coming up, type it in the chat and we can address it at the end, or you can shoot me a message. I'm going to mute myself and let Mindy take over.
Okay. All right. So tonight's call, I'm going to talk about pushing past just your fear of being vulnerable. So one of the things as coaches that we do that everybody knows is we share our story. We share what we're doing today, whether that's this is what my workouts look like, this is what my nutrition looks like, these are the things that I'm doing with my personal development. Like, we're sharing the day-to-day things, but there is also a level of just a deeper vulnerability that comes out, that is what's making us relatable. That's what's helping us find our people that are going to be attracted to us and attracted to our energy. And I know, at least for me, that can be super, super scary to kind of let your walls down and just be able to share those things about you that you feel like are what make you different. But in reality, those are the things that are going to help you to connect with people, because we all have, our things that we think, I'm the only one who feels like this. I'm the only one who thinks this or does this or whatever. And that's not the case. So what I want to talk about today is how to push past that and, let that side of you show, even though it is scary, because that's how you're going to attract people who are going to be like-minded, but also maybe have had those same types of fears or lived in those same situations in the past, and that's going to kind of help you connect that way. So I was going to start with, most of you on the call know my story or know lots of parts of my story, but we do have some new faces. So I'll spend just maybe like 5 minutes or so just talking about some of the things that for me were things that I never in a million billion years thought that I would ever share with anybody, like not even like my sisters and like close friends and family, that now I talk about so openly and so freely. And I have people message me like, oh my gosh, like, can we chat more and things like that. But like, even just a year ago, are things that I never spoke to anybody about. So just a little bit about where I'm coming from. So and I'm going to go back kind of a ways, just even though like growing up. And I took some notes this morning, and I'll talk more about that a little bit later too. But when I was growing up, I was always very introverted, even as a kid. And I had a couple of closer friends growing up. And I always had like a lot of people that I hung out with, but I always had this like anxiety being in groups, especially like groups of other girls or other women growing up. And it was always just this feeling of that, like, I wasn't good enough being around those people. And like, you see other people and you see like, okay, well, look at the clothes that person has, or look at, how they do their hair, or what they look like, or things like that. and just always kind of had that feeling like I was the oddball out, like I was the one who didn't fit in with the group. And it's crazy because like now as adults, and I'll talk to some of my friends and they're like, no, I was the weird one that was the oddball. Like we all freaking felt that way. And like, but none of us talked about it at the time. So like I kind of just always had that. And that gave me like this really big push to want to be perfect. Like that was part of like I felt like I was a huge people pleaser. And I know tons of us on this call are people pleasers because we've all talked about that before too. Um, but I also just had this need to be perfect. I had to have perfect grades and just look a certain way and, just be perfect in whatever sports I played, just different things like that, because I felt like that would help make me fit in. And as you grow up and you get older, sometimes those feelings will stick with you and you feel like, okay, well, I'm an adult now, but I still want to fit in. I still want to be liked. I still want, people to want to be around me. But then you also kind of start to have this side of you that's like, I just want to be who I am. I don't want to have to fit this cookie cutter mold anymore. I just want to be me. And that's where like the door starts to crack open and be like, okay, let me just push and I'm going to start to let some of that person out. So fast forward a little bit, and I met my ex-husband, and we fell in love and we got married and things were going great, but in reality, they weren't. And this is really his story to tell, not mine, but he was an addict and had gotten addicted to painkillers after an accident that he was in, and he was prescribed just I mean, he came home one day and he had like 5 prescription and he's like, this doctor just told me to find what works. And he got hooked pretty quick. So from pretty early on in our marriage, we started dealing with that. And for me, that was like, oh my gosh, this is this huge secret. Like people can't know about this. People can't know that this is going on. So slowly, I started to build this wall. So I already kind of had this, just feeling of I needed to be perfect on this side. And then it was like, oh, now I have this big secret that nobody can know about because, you know, and I feel like addiction's a little bit different now as far as just people being open to what it is and understanding it and learning about it. But 15 years ago, 17 years ago, it wasn't like that. It was, it was a much bigger like secret and more shameful thing. So then I really got into this habit of not sharing anything with anybody. Like, when I talk about walls went up. It was like I didn't talk to my sisters about that kind of stuff. And they were like the closest to me growing up forever, friends. It was just I didn't tell people that. And that became a habit. So then it was even like things in life that were like happy things that you would typically share with like your best friends. I wasn't even sharing those things because it was like I just gotten so used to just putting on this front that this is everything's perfect and this is the way it is, that I didn't know how to feel anymore. I didn't know how to express, what I was thinking or feeling because I was just like this shell that I just did what I was supposed to do and acted the way I thought I was supposed to act. But really, I didn't even like, I was just numb to everything. So when I started, right around the time that I started Beachbody, I also started on like just some work with, because he and I were getting divorced at that point in time. So started some work with, just coming to terms with what that was like and like everything that I had been through with that and realizing that it was like a trauma that I didn't even like, I just was so out of it. I wasn't even like putting those things together that like this was something crazy that was affecting me. I thought it was just him. I thought it was like affecting him and wasn't affecting me, wasn't affecting our kids. And then I was like, oh yeah, it is a family disease for sure. So when I started doing, the Beachbody and stuff like that, with Corey, it was like, oh, there's this community, there's these people. And I just fell so much in love with like getting back out into the world. But at the same time, I would like look at like Corey posting and just, putting herself out there on Facebook. And I'd be like, nope, it could never be me. There's no way. And once I got into coaching, that was like one of my biggest fears to doing it was being vulnerable and talking about my story and sharing on social media. And I knew that in order for me to be able to be me, I had to be truthful and I had to be honest about things like that. And I had to be vulnerable about it. And I couldn't just sugarcoat it. And I couldn't make it seem perfect like everything else for so many years that it was like, because that's exhausting. It's exhausting. And I don't want to say it's living a lie, but it is taking like, if my life is, 100%, I was sharing maybe like 3%. And so I wasn't lying necessarily. I just was hiding the majority of what was going on. So that was like the thing for me that was so freaking scary, was getting out and just saying, this is, this is what shaped me. This is what's made me the person I am. I do relate with other people and when I read their posts and things like that. So I'm like, I want to be able to share so that people can relate with me and not be afraid to do that. And I feel like it was seriously like ripping a band-aid off. It was like I just had to do it. I had to get the first couple of them out there. And then after that, like the ball just started rolling and it became that much easier. So I think some of the things and some of the notes that I kind of wrote down this morning is, you one of the things when you're becoming vulnerable like that and you are going to share and you are looking for your tribe and you're looking for your people is to know, like, we're all human. We all have the same range of feelings and emotions. Some of us express them differently, some of us process them differently or feel them differently, but we all have that same range. So, don't be afraid to, in a post or in a conversation, even to tap into some of those things, because you're going to relate on a much different level with people. And that's going to help build the trust. And that's going to help, people who are going to want to reach out to you or who are connecting with you and maybe don't even realize yet that they're connecting with you, but will eventually, like, you're going to be the person that they think of when they're ready because they feel that connection. So don't be afraid of that. Um, and the other thing too that I wrote down this morning also is, forever I was like a feeling stuffer. So when things would happen, I'd be like, oh, it's fine, everything's okay. And I would just like stuff all that. So I try not to do that anymore. And it's almost like there's times where now, like, getting the posts out there and talking about things is almost therapeutic, because it's really easy to, want to just hold all that stuff in again and slip back into that. And I'm like, no, this is something that I'm going through. I'm going to put it out there, because you do get so much love, especially from you girls that are on this call. Like, just the love and the community part of it is amazing. So I try not to do that anymore. And personal development helps with that so much. And I think that's another huge part of what helps with like pushing past that fear, is that you're engaging in your personal development, whether you're listening to it or you're reading or however you're consuming it, but do it, and do it every single day, because that is going to help so much with just, again, like processing things that you're going through, the good, the bad, anything. I mean, that was for me too. It was like the bad stuff I wasn't showing or sharing, but the good stuff I wasn't either. And then I wasn't even like, I didn't even know how to feel like the happy stuff. It was just crazy. So make sure that you're doing that, because that's going to help with the personal development 100%, and just giving you kind of courage to get out there and be able to share some of those things as well. Because again, one of the things that as coaches that we want to do is we want to be relatable. We want to be able to share so that people trust us. And we don't want to have to like hide those things. And then the other thing is, when you are sharing, like I said, you get the love and the community support, like you're kind of almost getting validation of that. Like, yes, it's okay. It's okay to be feeling this way. It's okay to be thinking these things or doing these things, and saying them, because there's others that are out there that are relating to that as well. So, you're connecting with your people. And I'm going to go back to, I wrote something else here. Katie mentioned it on her call last week, and I can't remember exactly what you're saying, but you're like, yeah, there's, times where I'll be thinking something and I'm like, do I really want to post that, or do I really want to do that? So what I find, and you talked about with it being like first thing in the morning, like when I first wake up in the morning and I've like just had my energize, so I'm half asleep, but it's starting to kick in. I've just done my meditation. A lot of times that's when like ideas for my posts will come to me, and I will write it all out on my phone and I'm like, okay, this is a really good one. Like, I'm going with it. And so like morning Mindy is like, yes, this post is it's gonna be awesome. And then at night before I post it, I read it and I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to say this. I don't know if I'm ready. And I'm like, night Mindy's like, no way, Jose. But I'm like, I gotta trust morning me because I thought it was a good idea in the morning when I was like half asleep. So I'm gonna go with it. And I feel like the ones that give me like the biggest like, shoot, do I want to post this or not? Like those are the ones that I get the most traction, or I get the most messages, or I get the most people who are saying thank you for sharing that. And I felt that too. So like those ones that are like the super scary ones are typically the ones that um are like I'm making the most connections and I'm having the most conversations with after posting those. So um make sure that you're you know allowing yourself to be vulnerable, but that you're giving yourself some grace as well. So there's going to be other things too that maybe now isn't the time to share that piece of you because you haven't completely processed, or you haven't completely, you know, healed from something, and it's not the right time. So you kind of got to know what that balance is as well. And I've seen like just about everybody on here, like I've read certain posts and things like that, and I'm just like, oh, I feel for you because I know exactly what you're talking about, or I can relate 100%. And like I just feel like that deeper connection, even like with you girls, where we're already pretty close, and we already have shared things outside of just different like social media posts and things like that. But it's just like a whole nother level. So that's pretty much it that I had. Hazel's over here waiting for me to like tell her how to say a word in her book or read something. So, but I don't know. Does anybody have any questions or anything else to add or to say?
No,
No?
that was
Okay.
so good. Something while you were talking that I was reminded of that always helped me when I was first starting is let your mess be your message.
Yes.
Nobody
I've
wants you
heard
to
that.
be perfect. Nobody needs you to be perfect. Our followers, our friends, our family need us to be authentic and to be us. So when you're ready, like Mindy said, when you're ready to share certain things and how you've worked through them, then that's when you do it. But no, that was awesome. So appreciate you sharing your thoughts. And every time I hear your story, it's just like, it's crazy to me that you were that person who did just kind of stuff everything down and was very introverted, because you're so outgoing and you're such a leader in the group and you're always so inspiring and eager to help and things like that. So I love watching you grow. Thank you so much for sharing. If you girls have any questions, drop them on the comments of the post from this morning, and I will get the recording up maybe tonight. I might go to bed and get it up tomorrow morning, but I will get it up for you. Have a great night. It was good to see all your faces. We have Kat, a new face, and Dawn, we haven't seen you in a little bit, and Julie, it's good to see all you girls. Hope you have a great rest of your night.